Ever wondered how each generation got its name and what shaped their views? From war and depression all the way to TikTok and AI, every group has a story. In this video, we'll break down every major generation. Let's dive in. The Lost Generation, born around 1883 to 1900, the first to come of age in the modern 20th century. But their youth? It was anything but easy. They grew up during one of the most chaotic times in history, World War I, which alone killed 16 million people and wounded 21 million more. Talk about brutal. Then, just as that ended, in 1918 the Spanish flu pandemic hit, claiming 50 million lives worldwide. These events left them shattered, disillusioned, feeling lost, hence the name. Though the lost wasn't confusion, it was emotional and spiritual despair, witnessing the collapse of old worlds and the savage violence of modern war. Post-war unemployment hit 15% in some countries, creating more uncertainty and more chaos. Artists, writers, thinkers, they were all trying to make sense of it, living among the fading empires and emerging machines. But here's the crazy part. Despite all the chaos, they produced some of the greatest minds. Einstein, Hemingway, Fleming. You know, that guy who discovered penicillin? You know these guys. These guys revolutionized science, literature, and medicine. They were searching for meaning, pushing endurance, creating hope out of chaos. Even though they are called the Lost Generation, they helped the world find a new direction. Stay tuned, this is just the beginning. Alright, this is one you need to hear. What if I told you that the generation often called the greatest wasn't just labeled that for hype? No? They earned it. These are the people who endured some of the toughest, most defining moments of the 20th century. And they didn't just survive, they helped build the world we live in today. They came of age during the Great Depression, 1933 specifically, when unemployment rate hit a mind-blowing 25%. That's 1 in 4 Americans out of work, families starving and poverty running rampant. Yet, they didn't give up. They relied on resilience, community, and pure grit to get through it. Then came World War II, where over 16 million Americans served in the armed forces, as soldiers, nurses, factory workers, engineers, and farmers. They all contributed to one thing: defeating fascism and restoring peace. By the time it was over, more than 70 million lives had been lost worldwide. That's a sacrifice on a scale we can't even imagine today, and it changed the course of history forever. But their story didn't end there. After the victory, these same folks fueled an economic boom that's still shaping our lives today. US GDP growing at an insane 4% every year. Suburban neighborhoods, they tripled in size. The interstate highway system sprawling over 46,000 miles. Education, college enrollment doubled between 1940 and 1960. And space tech, they put a man on the moon in 1969. Think about that for a second. This generation believed in duty, sacrifice, and responsibility. Their youth, shaped by hardship, turned them into builders of modern society. And their legacy? Well, it's not just history. It's in the roads we drive on, the schools we attend, and the society we live in every day. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The next generation we're diving into. Trust me, they played a huge role too. Born during the Great Depression, along with the chaos of World War II, this is the silent generation. Their childhoods were marked by ration books, air raid drills, and they faced it all, with discipline and restraint earning their name. But don't mistake silent for weak. They helped America post-war prosper. Homeownership soared from 44% in 1940 all the way to 62% by 1960. Union membership peaked at 35% in the 50s, and high school grads jumped from 50% all the way to 75%. They quietly changed the world, from civil rights advances to boosting labor rights, proving that slow and steady is what wins the race. The silent generation were the understated architects of transformation, proving real change often builds from the ground up. And next, those who transformed everything even further. Okay, Boomer. Yeah, I know you heard that before. Let's talk about them. Baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964. After World War II, the war ended, soldiers came home, and the boomers arrived. 76 million in the US alone, to be exact. They were born in a world hungry to rebuild and thrive. During this time, the economy was booming. GDP grew over 4% annually, suburbs exploded, and by 1968, 90% of homes had color TVs. The American dream was alive and well. White picket fences, Sunday drives, prosperity everywhere. But don't let the shiny surface fool you. A cultural revolution was brewing. As boomers hit adolescence, they fought for civil rights. Protests went from a few thousand in the early 60s to hundreds of thousands. They published Women's Liberation. Female workplace participation grew from 33% in 1960 to 43% in 1975. They protested the Vietnam War, fueling anti-war movements that changed history. Music, art, fashion, all tools from Woodstock's 400,000 attendees to the Watergate scandal that reshaped politics. Many boomers went on to become CEOs, politicians, and icons. They shaped the future. Their legacy? Unmatched. They didn't just witness history, they made it. And next, the generation sandwiched between the boomers and millennials. If baby boomers were the stars, Generation X were the observant, born between 1965 and 1980. They've often been called the latchkey generation because many grew up coming home from school to an empty house, needing a key just to get in. Their childhood was shaped by more free-range parenting, rising divorce rates, and moms joining the workforce with outside childcare booming. They earned the nickname the MTV generation, rebellious, sometimes seen as slackers or cynical. Declining birth rates hit after the 1960 birth control bill and 1973's abortion legalization, but thanks to the 1965 Immigration Act, Gen X actually became more diverse than ever. Music? They crushed it, with alternative rock, punk, hip-hop, and heavy metal. Tech? Exploded with Apple, Atari, and Commodore leading the charge. Video games took off in the 70s and 80s, arcades popped up everywhere, while Nintendo and Atari brought gaming into our living rooms. Gen X was smarter too. College enrollment boomed, and individualism and entrepreneurialism became their hallmark. These are the founders of Google, Wikipedia, Amazon, and YouTube. But up next, millennials, and trust me, their story is just as impactful. Stick around. Also, if you've learned anything so far, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the bell to turn on notifications for our next videos. Alright, let's get back into it. Millennials, also known as Generation Y, the first true digital natives. Born between 1981 and 1996, these are the folks who watched the internet explode, messaging on AIM, customizing MySpace pages, and later building their lives on Instagram and TikTok. Platforms with over 2 billion and 1 billion users. But it's not just about filters and hashtags. They're also wildly educated. Around 39% hold a bachelor's degree or higher, making them one of the most educated generations. Yet, they entered adulthood during the Great Recession, 2007 to 2009, facing sky-high student debt, averaging $37,000 per borrower. and a brutal job market where unemployment peaked at 10% in 2009. They're called the first global generation because they're connected to the world like never before, but also the unluckiest, with slower economic growth since they entered the workforce. Their birth rates declined. By the 2010s, they were often criticized for having less sex at the same age than the previous generations. In 2010, unemployment hit a record low of 19%, skyrocketing youth poverty, many ending up with living with their parents well into their 30s. Less religious but more spiritual, they experienced the 9/11 attack and the war on terror that forever changed America. But here's the real kicker. They're also the most socially conscious and activists of any generation, reshaping how we work, connect, and live. Raised up on dial-up but fluent in digital, their influence, well, they aren't finished just yet. Alright, let's talk Gen Z, the Zoomers. They're not just millennials 2.0, they're a whole different level. While millennials saw the rise of the internet and smartphones, Zoomers, they were literally born into it. Never knowing a world without Wi-Fi, Google, or TikTok, 95% of teens own a smartphone and 85% are constantly online, connecting with global conversations in real time. They've grown up amongst some of the most powerful social movements: Black Lives Matter, climate change activism, and a whole new kind of politics with Donald Trump taking the stage. They faced a pandemic that shut down their high school and college years, redefining what normal looked like for them compared to previous generations. But their spirit? It's pure individualism, hardwired for entrepreneurship. They're channeling the hustle of Gen X, but with a digital twist. Freelancing, gig work, that's how they're transforming careers. The pandemic didn't just shift their daily lives. It shifted where work happens, from office cubicles to home offices on their own terms. And social platforms, they're not just for entertainment anymore. They're shaping culture and ideas. Memes, originally just jokes made from millennials, now spread powerful messages and influence what's currently trending. Ordinary people can now grab attention just as easily as Hollywood or big media icons, opening up jobs like content creators and influencers. Social media careers? They're the new top-tier jobs, and they're shaping the world faster than ever. In short, they're not just the next generation, they are the now generation, creating the future in real time. And what are they doing today? That's just the beginning. Generation Alpha, born between 2013 and 2025, is still being written. But one thing's clear, they will be unlike any generation before them. Raised mostly by millennials, they're growing up in a world dominated by AI, virtual reality, and smart technology. By age 2, 80% of children are already using digital devices, swiping before they speak and interacting with AI, often learning from tablets long before stepping into a classroom. Many will experience young adulthood in the 2030s, with the UN predicting an average lifespan of 83 years worldwide. Known as the pandemic generation, they've experienced the COVID-19 crisis as young children and are growing up in a world reshaped by technology's rapid evolution. They live in homes where mental health, digital access, and exclusivity are prioritized. Over 90% of households have internet, making them more globally minded, highly educated, and socially conscious from a young age. While their future holds ideas like neural interfaces, quantum computing, space travel, and climate innovation, it's impossible to predict all the challenges they'll end up facing: mental health struggles, misinformation, polarization. But one thing's for sure, they're not just the future, they're the blueprint for what's to come. This generation is on the edge of a new frontier, shaped by every challenge and breakthrough that came before them. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure to comment on your favorite generation. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. And I'll see you in the next one.